Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
When you're teaching vision, you're pretty much always going to be looking at one of two places, either the body or the apparatus. We should try and avoid giving the athlete an external cue, such as the building that the gymnast is performing in. So some coaches will ask the kids to look at the ceiling or aim their feet towards the roof, the lights or something like that. Now, the problem of that is as soon as you change the environment, that cue is no longer there. So kicking towards the feet, looking at the knees, looking at the hips, the chest, looking down your leotard, looking at the bar. These are all cues that are transferable. You go from gym to gym, from piece to piece, events to event in US language, and to a competition venue. Those cues are going to remain consistent. So if I was describing where the visual cues would be in a flyaway dismount, let's start first of all with the handstand before the downswing. And the athlete here will be looking towards the bar. Just subtly, the ears should be covered by the arms. So we're literally just having the athlete peer at the top of their gaze towards where the bar is. The head is not out. That's really, really important. Now, as the athlete starts to descend, go on the downswing, we want them to look at the low bar. And that's assuming that the low bar is in place. Now, again, this serves a couple of purposes. One of them is just to give them a sense of awareness of how close is that bar to their feet. And being aware of it takes away the guessing phase of it, or the guessing part. So looking at the low bar all the way down until the feet have passed the bar should help with the confidence and therefore the technique. Once we're past that point, the head's just going to stay in the same position. And on the rise of the swing, on the tap here, we now want the athlete to be looking towards either their knees or their feet on the way up. And that's it. For the rest of the flyaway, their eyes will stay in that position. They might just look behind themselves in order to land and see the floor, but that's where we are deliberately asking the athletes to look. So if
I would first ask you to look inwardly at what your mood is when you're coaching vaults, because vault is about aggression, and there's a lot of different moods that happen in gymnastics. And I talk to my athletes about this a lot in compulsory gymnastics. Like when we're on floor and we're doing dance and we're being elegant and long and beautiful, I like speak in a different way. I'm like, okay, now we're going to move our arms and now hold our core tight and pull the hands up, wrists flat, and I'm just kind of using that. And when you're coaching vault, I'm at the vault table, slapping the vault table as hard as I can, kind of like, go, 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 and getting them in that mood. They have to have that sort of aggression if you want them to be tense on the board. So a lot of the things that I do with my athletes is we play a lot of games. Don't take the play aspect out of gymnastics with your compulsory gymnasts and your younger gymnasts, because a lot of times they figure things out through play. And especially with things like board punching, chances are they're probably not going to get hurt or form bad habits with board punching. And so you want to let them play a little bit. And so just having them run down the vault runway and just jump over things, crush the springboard as hard as they can, and jump over a pool noodle or jump onto higher mats and stack them higher and higher, make it a competition. But getting them in that aggressive mindset and aggressive mood is really going to help them to stay tense on the board. Sometimes if I have kids that really, really struggle with it and they just hit the board and you don't see a lot happening in their midsection, I have them kind of yell when they hit the board. Obviously, I don't do that like when they're actually vaulting, but running, jumping, hitting the springboard, going, ah, as they hit the springboard and just jumping up onto the mat. If you're in my gym listening to me coach lower level vault, you probably can't hear anything else because I'm just screaming down there and just having a bunch of fun. But
kip handstands clearly are going to be very important, but I think that a lot of coaches lack creativity in the way that they do that, because there's lots of ways of doing kip handstands. You can do them on the low bar. You can do them on the high bar consecutively. You can face in and out on both of those rails, because that makes a difference. You can do drop kips. You can do kip handstand with pirouettes. There's all sorts of different ways of actually training the kip handstand. It doesn't just have to be the mundane 5 kip handstands in a row or 10 in a row on the low bar facing inwards. So kind of mix things up a bit, because variety is going to be important. And particularly, these gymnasts hopefully are going to be doing bars for over a decade with you. You don't want to be coming to bars and doing the same basic warm-up every single day.
I recall being very, very, very frustrated in the early 2000s of what I was seeing and what I was feeling. And I was told pretty much, win my way first. When you can win the way that I want you to, then I'm open to hearing your opinion. And so honestly, that's exactly what I did, because unfortunately we're a sport and there's a lot of power in winning. And so I did. And I would encourage people to do that, but I didn't do it their exact way. I did it a little bit my way. And then I was able to point out all of the things that I did that I thought were better from a cultural perspective, not necessarily a technique perspective, from a cultural perspective that got my team to be successful. So if you're fighting this battle and your kids are coming in last, you're going to have a really hard time getting anyone to listen to you, because there's no proof in your pudding. And so while these are really, really hard things, that's kind of where I come from. That is what works for me. And then slowly, when you're coaching in a certain way that you feel comfortable with, and your kids are having fun and they're smiling and they're coming in the gym excited, other people will notice that. And unless they're completely just vacant and don't want to be a part of fun and happiness, they're going to start to change.
Facilitating discussion rather than trying to tell people the direction to go in. And I think that's what's important, because essentially we're talking about psychological safety. If you approach an experienced coach, an older coach, whatever they are, and basically say you're doing it wrong, you're threatening their feeling of psychological safety and security, which isn't pleasant for anybody. Instead, by saying, I've read this great book and I think it would be great if we all read it and shared our thoughts on it, that's not as threatening. It's just a nudge in the right direction. So maybe that's something that, for coaches to think about. And ultimately, I think Lindsey had mentioned this, like, let your results show. So if you have a philosophy that you're able to introduce to your own environment and your own coaching, go for it. If it works, it works. And maybe the influence will actually be that other people will see the success of those methods and they'll start to adopt them themselves. That is the long game, but that might be what you need to do in order to prove the philosophies and the principles that you're talking about or thinking.
The skills. So if you're looking to revamp your recreational program, you make sure that you give the rec staff a goal. People love to have goals, and so you want to tell your rec staff, like, the goal is for you to teach these kids how to do a proper plie releve. The goal is for you guys to teach these kids how to get to a releve step lock. I mean, because that's what comes before the pivot turn. They have to lock into that flat front of the ankle releve position on balance beam. And if you write into your curriculum those steps, then they will follow them. I think that maybe just a little change of your mindset, because when high school kids go get their first job and they're working like McDonald's, they don't tell you, well, I like to put the cheese outside the buns. And that's just how I make my hamburgers, because there's just a way to do it. And the buns go on the outside of the hamburger. And when they're working at McDonald's, this is how you make the Big Mac. And they follow the instructions and they make the Big Mac because that's their job. And so I think that maybe taking a little bit of the control out of younger, untrained coaches' hands is something that would benefit your program. And so I don't really give my rec coaches an option. They have to use progressions. It's designed right into our recreational program. But if they have zero experience and you're the one with the experience and you're the professional, you need to give them the tools to make that happen. But like I said, I think it's just a little bit of a mindset switch. They're coming in to do a job. They're employed by you. You give them the directions and they follow them. That's what having a job is. And so you don't just want to leave them to their own devices. And so you just need to kind of make sure that you've got the reins on your rec program.